Tommy Sheppard, member of the UK Parliament for Edinburgh East and SNP Constitutional Affairs spokesperson. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. What is your opinion and that of your parties as well on the repeated reports of Turkey's use of chemical weapons against the Kurds, as the chemical weapon allegations is our main topic today? So as a SNP MP, how would you going to comment on that Turkey's war crime?
Just to make it clear, I'm speaking in a personal capacity. I'm not the spokesperson for the party in these matters, although I'm fairly confident that the majority of my colleagues would agree with what I'm about to say. And in the SNP, we're extremely concerned at Turkey's actions. Having read the report, the Sweeney report that was published a few months ago, I think there's certainly enough information there that's been documented to warrant a proper investigation of these reports, so that we can get to the bottom of this once and for all. It's not acceptable for the British government and others to say that the reports are unsubstantiated without taking action to substantiate them and ask themselves whether or not these reports are verifiable.
Secondly, how can these reports of its use of such weapons be verified and proven?
Well, there needs to be a thorough investigation. I would have thought that the OPCW is probably the first place to start. This is an international organization responsible for monitoring chemical weapons, and it's funded in large part by Western governments. They ought to now commit, I think, to a full investigation of these allegations in the field and go and do what Sweeney did. Go and speak to people and listen to their reports and take their evidence. And also, it's I read the report, and there are soil samples have been taken, for example, but it's proving very difficult to get them analyzed. Well, an international body can do just that. It can go in and it can take air and soil samples and it can analyze them to see if there are traces of banned chemical substances, which would indicate that there have been chemical weapons used. It's not that difficult to do if there's the political will to do it. There's been investigations of this nature done in many countries over the years. So let's not pretend that it's something impossible and something undoable, and let's get on and get to the bottom of these reports.
Thank you. You mentioned the political willingness to do that, basically. Do you think Europe and, let's say, Western powers, do they have the willingness and ability to prove the chemical weapon usage of Turkey's war crimes, actually? Because, as we know, UK is supplying with the guns to Turkey, and as well as the Germany is making arms trade with Turkey as well. So when that chemical weapons has been proved, do you think that problem will not come to doors of UK and Germany and other Western powers, do you think?
Well, I don't think there is a political will at the moment, and it's the responsibility of those like myself who are concerned about what's happening to try and persuade their own governments to develop that political will. For far too long, the United Kingdom and other Western countries have turned a blind eye to Turkey's attacks on its own population. I am fairly certain that some of the arms that this country is exporting to Turkey are being used against the civilian population. And that is in contradiction to the conditions for export arms licenses from the UK, and that ought to be reviewed. And I've called for a suspension of arms exports to Turkey until we can ascertain exactly what they're being used for. So you're right, there doesn't appear to be the political will, and people seem prepared to turn a blind eye to what the Erdogan government is doing, providing on the international stage Turkey plays the role that the West wants it to play.
Thank you. Very short, very briefly, what effective action can be taken to investigate and establish the facts?
Well, like I say, the OPCW could put together a team of experts who are very experienced in undertaking these investigations and who have investigated other allegations in other parts of the world, and they could go into the region and speak to the people and examine the ground and find out whether or not there's substantial evidence, significant evidence, verifiable evidence for the use of chemical weapons. On the face of it, there appears to be a prima facie case that this has happened, but it's not good enough for Western governments to say these are unverified reports if they are not prepared themselves to investigate them and see whether they wish to verify them or not. And that's what now needs to happen. We need pressure through individual governments on the OPCW to make sure we have a proper investigation.
Thank you. What practical influence can politicians like yourself exert on the process in order to complete the authorities charged with verifying such abuses to get to work?
Well, my immediate focus is to put pressure on the Foreign Office within the United Kingdom to make sure that they articulate these demands. But I don't want to mislead you or your viewers. I and my colleagues who share this view, we are in a minority. So the first thing we need to do, to be honest, is to raise awareness across politicians in the UK to make them aware of what is happening, to make them aware of the reports that have been coming forward from individual testimonies, and for them to be persuaded to have the political will to make the government do something. But we will keep on doing what we can. We try and hold the government to account through the parliamentary procedures that we have here.
Turkey is seeking concessions from NATO allies in return for its assent to Sweden and Finland's membership, and is even seeking to be rewarded for its role in supplying drone technology to Ukraine. Surely no concessions should be made to Turkey until these chemical weapons allegations are cleared up. So what is your view? What is your comments about that? Very shortly, please.
Well, I agree. And to be honest, I think that there's now sufficient evidence to say that it might well be that the Turkish government is not behaving as one would expect a NATO member state to behave, both in terms of its treatment of its own population, particularly the Kurdish population, but also the invasion of another country. So there is a case, I think, to be made to review Turkey's membership of NATO and to ask ourselves whether Turkey is a fit state to continue to be a member. And it's regrettable that no one is asking these questions at the top table, because they are prepared to be silent in order to get Turkey to do the things that they want to do with regard to Russia and the region more generally.
Lastly, the real solution must be to bring to stop the Turkish war and bring about the peace in the region. What can be done to achieve this? Very shortly, thank you.
Well, it upsets me and shames me that for years this country and others applauded the Kurdish fighters in their fight against ISIS, lauded them, talked about what heroic warriors they were, and then when that conflict receded and ISIS were defeated, at least for the time being, the Kurdish people were just betrayed by Western governments. That would have been a time to reset the equation and to actually try and fulfill some of the human and political rights demands that the people in Kurdistan are making, and to have a negotiated settlement with the Turkish government, and of course involving Iraq and Syria as well. But people missed that opportunity completely, which is a great shame. But I think we need to try and get that back on the table. But you're certainly right. I mean, Turkey needs to be persuaded, one way or another, to stop attacking its own people and to stop embarking on this attempt to remove Kurdish people and Kurdistan from the face of the earth.
Dear Tommy Sheppard, member of the UK Parliament for Edinburgh East SNP MP, thanks for joining us. Thank you for your valuable comments today.
It's a pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.